G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here with my video on how to create a wizard in Avowed. I have played through on normal difficulty all the way through with a wizard, and this is my insights on how to do it, what works, what doesn't. Let's have a look. The first thing to say about the build here with the look doesn't matter at all. You can go as weird or as normal as you want. Has no effect on the game, really. There's a couple of times when people comment on your appearance. That's it. So go nuts. Do whatever you want. Backgrounds. Backgrounds are also not important at all. They do set your starting attributes and they give you your starting weapon. And that's it. They have, and none of that matters. And they also have some unique dialogue associated with them. But, importantly, none of that matters. None of that dialogue is important for any quests. It's just some optional dialogue that you can say in some cases. It won't make people think any better or worse of you. It won't, like choosing to use Noble Scion over Arcane Scholar will not cause you to fail a quest. It's just something for a bit of extra color, a bit of extra variety in the game. So it does not matter at all. Having said that, if you want to pick the two that I feel are most closely related, I guess, to what a wizard is, Arcane Scholar is obviously the first one, and maybe Court Alga as the other. But I'll just pick Arcane Scholar for this. So let's talk about attributes. Now, these are the starting attributes that we have been given as a Arcane Scholar. Different for each class, doesn't really matter. And importantly, you can only put 3 points into any one of these at the start. But there's an easy way around that, which I'll show you in a minute. So let's talk about the attributes themselves. Might. This is your bonus to damage and your bonus carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is pointless in this game, right? Because you've got a camp storage chest that you can send everything to very easily from your inventory at any time. So having bonus carrying capacity does not matter. And B, most of the weapons and armor in the game that you're not using, you're going to want to break down, right? You're going to want to break them down for materials that you can use to upgrade the equipment that you are using. So I don't really end up selling a lot of the random weapons and armor that I find. I break them all down. That's sort of what you're meant to do, because at the end of the game, I had more money than I knew what to do with. So don't think you're going to need all of this money at the start of the game. You don't. All right? But the bonus to damage is quite good. I mean, it's nothing ridiculous, but if you get your might here to 10, for example, that's 25% bonus damage, which, you know, is nice to have. And so really any build gets a good bonus from might, because it doesn't matter what damage you're doing, whether you're swinging a weapon, whether you're shooting a bow, shooting any of the guns, firing a wand, or casting a spell, might improves the damage of all of those. So really, my strategy is get might up first, right? That's my first thing. Constitution. So you start with 100 points of health, and at every level you do get an increase. It's not clear how much, because I don't think it stays the same. For example, when you get to level 2, you will be at 104 health if you haven't taken any bonuses to Constitution. But by the end of the game, it's not just 4 points per level. It seems to change and potentially go up as the levels go up. It's a little unclear. I don't know if there's some special formula. I haven't been able to find anyone who has recorded everywhere that you get this many extra points per level. It doesn't seem to be the same per level, but you do end up with, I think, somewhere over 200 points at the end of the game if you haven't really done anything special with Constitution. So, and I never really felt that I didn't have enough health. Yes, there was 1 or 2 times when I was two-shotted and, it was like, I had to be a little bit more careful here, but I didn't feel like I should have maxed out my Constitution, right? Constitution also controls bleed and poison resistance. They're not really a problem either, because in the camp, you can go over to the cooking pot and you can make grog. And alcohol, basically, pure alcohol. And that gets rid of any negative effect, whether it's poison, bleeding, elemental attacks, you name it, it gets rid of it. So just always make sure you've got, several of those. And by the end of the game, you will have picked up a lot of them if you're picking up everything that you find, more than you really ever need. You'll be fine. So that's that. Dexterity. Dexterity is your speed, and this is useful to have in this build, right? Because it's the speed of anything, whether it's attack speed, whether it's reloading, equipping, drinking, jumping, running, and casting spells. So if you can increase your dexterity, you will be able to cast your spells quicker. Perception. Now, perception is for critical hits and range of wands, guns, and bows. It's not clear whether this increases range of spells. I don't think it does, which means it's useless for a mage because spells do not get critical hits. Wands do, but the wand is useless. It is so inaccurate that it is not really a viable weapon. Sure, you could make a build where you just use wands and nothing else, dual wielding wands, for example, but I wouldn't do it. It's just not a very good weapon at all. So I'm saying you don't need perception. Intellect. This is going to be controversial, right? But you don't need intellect. Even though intellect increases your essence, right? So you start with 140 essence. No matter who you are. If you have no points in intellect, you will start the game with 100 health and 140 points in essence. If you max out your intellect and you don't have any other bonuses to intellect, you don't have any bonuses to essence, you will only have 200 points of essence by the end of the game. Now, as I said, there are other ways to buff it. You can get extra bonuses to intellect, which go beyond the 15 points that you can normally put in. And you can also get straight up bonuses to essence from most of the wizard armor, the wizard robes that you can find. They all give you a flat essence bonus of like 20, 30, 40, whatever, right? So all of those plus the intellect bonus, you're never actually going to get much beyond, I think it's about 220 to somewhere between 220 and 250 essence. Well, like 200 essence if you max out intelligence, and then I know the best armor in the game, the best wizard robes gives I think 40, and if you've got a few other bonus points in intellect, you might be somewhere around 42, 240, 243, something like that. Essence maximum would be 250, but I don't think it's that high. You just, if you're playing it right, you actually don't need a huge amount of essence, right? And I'll explain that later. So lastly, you've got resolve. Now resolve is your stamina, and stamina is every time you run, jump, well, maybe not running because you can run forever, but dodging, jumping, and attacking, you use up stamina. Casting spells, you don't, right? So you can sit there and just spam a bunch of spells and it does nothing against your stamina, but you will want to dodge a fair bit in this build. But you don't really need resolve either, all right? Now, what should you set these at starting point? Well, you can only put a maximum of 3 points in anything, but it actually doesn't matter what you do at the starting point because you can fix this and make a really good build straight away, no matter what you do here. Let me show you. So none of this matters, and it doesn't matter the difficulty level that we choose. What I'm going to show you right now works on every difficulty. Let's have a look. All right. So we have started the game, and you'll notice we start with 300 gold, and our health is 100, and you'll see we've got 155 essence, and that's because we currently have that 15 bonus there in intellect, which gives us the extra. Actually, we probably start with 150 in intellect, in essence, sorry, but you have a minus 10 essence from wearing your light armor. I always forget that there's that extra bonus there. But because we start with 300 gold, the very first thing we can do is go reset. And now we can put as many points as we want in any of these attributes. We can put all 10 points into might. And that's what I recommend you do straight up. So you're going to start the game with the 25% bonus to damage. Right, confirm that. It'll let you do it. Done. You're now doing 25% extra damage, and that doesn't matter what weapon you're using. If you did decide to, you could do this for any build, really. That is something that you should do straight up. That bonus to damage is going to be really good early game, and it's just going to continue throughout the entire game. It's really, really nice. Now, I'm going to now show you a build right at the end of the game, and I'm going to show you my wizard build from right at the end of the game, and I'm going to show you what stats I ended up with and a couple other things about these attributes. Let's have a look at that. Over here. Damn it. Hang on. All right. Don't know what happened there, but it loaded the wrong thing. Okay, so these are my stats at the end of the game. I am level 30, which is the maximum level that you can get. And I have some bonuses. Any of these ones which are in blue here, you'll see there are some bonuses from other things. So I have 12 might doing 27% extra damage. 3 constitution, I didn't need to have that there. 10 dexterity, 1 perception, 8 intellect. Now I have put 3 points into intellect in this build, only because it got to the end of the game and I couldn't work out where else I wanted to put points. But due to some training and the totem that I've chosen, I've gotten 8 intellect total, giving me an extra 34.6 points of essence. And you'll note here I have 240 essence because my robes are giving me plus 40 maximum essence. Right? And I have another 34 points there, and it all somehow works out. I don't know. Anyway, You just don't need essence, is what I'm saying. I can rebuild this without any essence at all, except for those bonuses from Yahtzee, Giada, and the Queen's Burden. Get rid of those extra 3 points, so it's only 5 intellect, and I would still be very, very happy with this build. What I'll mention is, you'll see here with Might, it says I've got 10 points in the base and I've got 2 points from Kai's training. You don't ever really want to put more than 10 points from the base into any one of these. Because after you do, the bonuses really start to fall off. Let me show you. Let me reset. Right. So I'll show you with dexterity, but it's the same with all of these. The only reason I'm showing with dexterity is because I don't have any bonuses in it. So as I go up, 4% increase in attack speed for the first, it's actually about 3.5 rounded up, I think, for the first 5 levels. And then it comes back to a smaller amount. I think it's only 2 points per level for the next 5. And then dexterity is 1 point per level for the last 5. And that's the maximum that I can go. So it really turns out that you're not getting much benefit from putting more than 10 points in, right? So similarly, if I go through the Might, once I get to, well, in this case, 8 points that I've added, that's at 25% damage. It only goes to a maximum of 30% damage, right? So, and also, like, you'll notice for these last 2 points, there's no change. You can only get to a maximum of 15 in any one of the attributes, and you're getting bonuses from other things like training or totems, right? So it doesn't pay you. It's a waste to put those points into something after you've put 10 base points in there. Don't go any higher. The rest of the points should go into something else where it can be useful. In this case, just to be different, I'm going to put them into Resolve rather than Intellect. And there we go. I'll confirm that. So I now have 230 essence, 304 health. So as you can see, I said I started with 100 health, and I've gone up 30 levels, and I'm at 304. I don't know what the formula is, because going from level 1 to level 2, you go from 100 to 104. Now I don't have any bonuses to Constitution. So what the formula is to work out how much you get per level, it's not 4 points a level, and it's not 10 points a level. I don't know what it is. It's very weird. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say about attributes. Let's talk about abilities now. Now, I have built this on only wizard abilities. I don't have any abilities in Ranger. I don't have any abilities in Fighter. You can, and there are a couple of things that are good in Fighter and in Ranger that you might want to consider. For example, Constant Recovery is quite good. Toughness, giving you some extra health if you feel you really need it. I wouldn't bother going down Armored Grace, because that's only if you're going to wear medium or heavy armor, and there's no point in wearing medium or heavy armor as a wizard, because they have too much of a penalty on essence. And this only decreases your stamina penalty, which would be when you're dodging, and not your essence penalty. All right? But they're really the only abilities here that are all that good. none of the other ones, even at the higher levels, are really all that good for a wizard. For a ranger, the only ones that are decent, Tanglefoot is actually a fairly decent spell. Let's call it what it is. It is a spell, right? But it's a spell that a ranger can cast, and it's one of the few active abilities that the ranger has. But the other things that the ranger has that is nice is evasive, which means your dodges cost less. And considering you are going to be dodging a lot, that might be useful to you. However, if you have put points into resolve, you will have more stamina. So you might not need it. It might balance out. It depends. It also depends on when you're going to put points into stamina, because, you know, in the build that I've just started, I maxed out might to 10 points. It's not maxed out, but I got my might to 10. And then my next goal was getting my dexterity to 10 to increase my attack speed and my spell speed and all my other speeds. And only then would I look at putting points into resolve. So that's going to be quite a way down the list, considering I only added 7 points into resolve in this example. So you probably don't want to... you're probably going to have less stamina early game, so that if you did want to use something from the ranger tree fairly early on, evasive would be a good option. Now, these other ones, survivalist and scavenger, are technically fairly useful for anybody. So survivalist gives you some extra recipes that have some really good healing and stuff like that in them. Again, you're not really going to need them because I didn't use them in my playthrough, and the default food that you can make is more than good enough. For example, one of the recipes that you unlock at rank 2 here of survivalist, these extra recipes, so that means you've got to put 2 points into this to get the bonus. One of those recipes gives you 750 health. You never have 750 health. So it's kind of a waste to cook that when it's giving you back more health than you're ever going to have. Why would you cook it? You know, cook something that gives you 300 health, because you're going to have that at the end of the game. But 750, that's more than double the health. Even if you max out health in every other way, like you've maxed out toughness and you've maxed out constitution and you've made sure you got all the bonuses from the training that max out the constitution, and you've picked the totem that's going to give you bonuses to constitution, you are not going to have more than about 400 health, I don't think. So why would you want to cook something that's going to give you 750 health? It's pointless, right? So it's debatable. I mean, it's also giving you something which there's something else which gave you like 300 essence. And as I've shown you, you never have 300 essence. The maximum essence you're ever going to have is about 240. Actually, let's prove that. I didn't do that, did I? Let's reset these points again, and let's just see what we end up with if we max out intellect. So there's the maximum 15 there, and I'm going to put the rest into might as you would want. And then anything left will go into dex. Confirm. Yes. Inventory. 255 essence. That is pretty well the max. I have minus 25% essence cost and minus 20% plus 20% cast speed. And then minus 10% essence ability, plus 15 maximum essence from these boots, and then another 40. So we've got 55 extra essence. So as you can see, even with essence intelligence maxed out, we only have 200 essence, and then we get another 55 from the gear we're wearing, and that's it. 255. There's no way to get any higher than that. It's pointless. So having some item that you can cook, which gives you back 300 essence, why? It doesn't help you at all. The only thing I will say about it is, if your essence or your health is below 25%, right, or 20%, I think it is, one of the two, somewhere around there, and you eat some food in combat, you get a really big bonus straight away, and then the rest comes back slowly over time. Whereas when you drink a potion, you get it all pretty well straight away, right? Now, here is my character at the end of the game. I have 100 essence potions on me, and there's only really one big combat left, and I can tell you I did not use 100 essence potions in that combat. I did use about 10. It was probably the most essence potions I had ever used, but you don't need a huge amount of essence. I also have this potion, which gives me 100 essence. I have 66 of those. I have candied nuts, which give me 150 essence. I have 6 of those. I have 21 all-leaf tea, which gives me 150 essence. I have so many things that give me back essence that I am just not using. Right? That it's not a problem. I don't need these extra recipes that give me these ridiculous amounts. But you can take them if you want. The other one was scavenger. All right, so you get more upgrade materials when you pick herbs and stuff. That is generally useful, but again, I was able to upgrade all of my gear as much as I wanted to. So my armor and my wand and my spell books are all, or my 3 main spell books that I'm using, are all maxed out. I cannot upgrade them any further. And that wasn't something that I struggled to do. So I didn't need this ranger ability to get the extra upgrade abilities, extra upgrade materials. Everything was there for me. I didn't have a problem. So you don't need them, but if you want to take them, take them. All right. Let's talk about the wizard stuff. At first level, when you get to second level, you're going to be prompted to take minor missiles to sort of cement yourself as a wizard. You don't have to. You could take Tanglefoot if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. But minor missiles is a good spell. It costs 25 essence though, and there's no way to reduce that. So just be aware of that. This is going to end up being the most expensive spell you own. I'll explain more on that in a minute. But you'll see here I have maxed it out. I've put all 3 points into it so that it unlocks 6 missiles rather than 3. Because it is a good spell. It does a good chunk of damage, and once you've got 6 missiles there, rather than the original 3, even once you get to second rank and you've got 5 missiles, it's doing good damage, right? It is very nice to have. Now, from there, early game, you're going to want... Well, you don't need Arcane Veil, but it's a nice spell to have. All right? Having said that, I will talk a little bit about spells in a sec. So we'll come back to this. You do want to put a point into this. The other thing that you want is, at some point, you're going to want to put 2 points into Armored Essence. You're not going to be able to do it straight away because there's a limit on when you can go to rank 2. I think you have to be level 5. This decreases the essence penalty for light and medium armors by 15 and then 25. And you'll notice my armor only has a maximum of 10 essence penalty, minus 10. Some of the other early ones can be 15 or 20. You won't see much more than 20 in the stuff that you want to wear. But most light armor is 20 or less, I believe. All right. But if you've got those 2 points in there, you can wear any light armor. You don't need to go to 3 because it's overkill. Right? You're never going to have a light armor that's at 30. But if you did want to wear medium armor for some silly reason, you could negate 30 points of essence penalty there. I wouldn't do it, but you do end up with you end up with a lot of points at the end, and you're working out where you want to put them next. Having said that, none of the medium armors that I can think of give you bonuses to essence. So, like I said, the good robes, they give you bonuses to essence. Stick with the good robes, okay? So that's that. Now, let's talk about spells. Everything on this side of the game of the screen are your main spells. This is the only other spell here. All of these are passive abilities. All of these are passives, right? Now, you'll notice that the vast majority of these spells here, I have 2 points in. That is important, okay? The way that you want to play things in this game is you want to use grimoires, right? That is why I am carrying 5 grimoires, right? Because that is the way to cast spells. You will, if you look here, you will see that my superb grimoire of Distant Death has a 72% ability cost. Minus 72%, right? So that means it's only costing me 80% of the normal element amount to cast that spell. 18%. Right? Yeah, 18%. So if we go back and have a look at Chill Blades, for example, Chill Blades here normally costs 25 essence. So what's that? So if I now cast it, it's going to cost about 4 essence to cast, not 25. Right? But here's the thing. Let's go back to the spell book again, and let's pick Fan of Flames. Right? So let's look at Jolting Touch. Right? I have 2 levels in Jolting Touch. What that means is when I cast this spell, you'll notice it says here, purchasing this spell allows you to cast it without the need for a grimoire. Additionally, casting the purchased spell from a grimoire empowers it, casting it as if it will run rank higher. So if I cast Jolting Touch from a grimoire, not only am I able to cast that spell for 4 essence rather than 25, right? Is that right? 10% of 25 is 2.5. So 18% is going to be 4. Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's right. Good. Just making sure. Right. So not only can I cast that for 4 essence, not 25, but I can cast it as a full rank 3. Which means that not only does it do the Jolting Touch, which goes from the target to the nearest target and then the next nearest one, it now jumps to an additional 2 targets, and when I cast it against a single enemy, it concentrates and does even more shock damage. Or you can have a look at Arcane Veil, for example. I have 1 point in that. When I cast Arcane Veil from a grimoire, I now automatically cast it as rank 2, which means all incoming arrows and similar projectiles are reflected back at the enemy. Right? So, we always want to cast our spells from grimoires, and we want to put 2 points, and only 2 points, because the third point is wasted, into the spells that we are commonly casting from our grimoires. And when you do that, you are casting at, take this Meteor Shower, right? At that 72%, rather than this costing at 72% reduction, rather than this costing me 125 essence, which is like 2/3 of my essence, it's going to cost me 25 essence, which is, an 1/8 of my essence. So Using grimoires, you can cast spells all day long. And I'm going to show you. Sorry, I'll talk about the spells now. Actually, let's talk about these other abilities here. I have put 2 points into Wand Mastery for no other reason. I didn't know where else to put them. Because, as I said, the wand is useless. All right? So these I put in right at the end of the game. They're useless. I wouldn't do that. You're better off putting those 2 points into a spell that you're using. I probably should have put them into Chill Blades because I do technically use Chill Blades a little bit. Right? And I'm not getting the full advantage out of it. Having said that, the bonus abilities that Chill Blades have aren't all that great. Some bleed, extra bleed damage, and it can go through multiple enemies. And I'm telling you right now, the number of times you will have two enemies, one behind the other, it's actually pretty rare. So don't rely on it. All right? Anyway, that was that. If you're not using wands, these three here are completely useless to you. And I basically didn't use my wand. I kept a wand in my hand, but only because if I didn't have a wand in my hand and I misclicked, I would be punching, or, you know, if I had a dagger or something in my hand, I'd be stabbing at nothing that was in front of me, right? Whereas if I misclick in the middle of combat and happen to mistakenly hit the button to use my wand, at least there is a spark coming out of my wand that might hit something and do some damage. Because I'm trying to stay at a distance from opponents all the time, that is more useful to me than misclicking and, you know, stabbing or punching at nothing in front of me, right? And also, that animation for punching or stabbing is way slower than the amount of time it takes to cast the wand. The wand is a very fast weapon. So if I do misclick like that, it's going to waste less action time and I can get back to casting a spell that much quicker. All right? But wands are effectively useless in battle because they are so inaccurate. So you don't really want, and this only increases the damage, not the accuracy. So you don't really want any of these. Really, maybe bounce or blast is a little bit useful because bounce will cause the spark to bounce around and it might hit something else, but I think it has to hit a target first for it to bounce. I haven't tried it. And blast does do some damage to nearby opponents, so maybe that'll make it more useful, but I just don't really like the wands, so use those at your own discretion. Harvest Essence, though. Once you can put points in this, do it. Whenever you kill an opponent, there will be a little blue ball that hovers over their corpse. That gives you back essence, and it's not just for wizards. Every character, no matter how you build your character, you will always find that essence there. Now, if you're using a build where you're using fighter or ranger and you don't have many active abilities and you're not using very much essence, they are going to be mostly wasted. But as a wizard, you want to go and collect all of those after a battle, and sometimes even during a battle, to give you back some essence. So using this harvest essence to increase how much essence you get back, and by the third rank you're getting 4 times the normal essence from those, that is really useful. If you know me, you know I'm not big on things like necromancy and blood magic and stuff like that. This, theoretically, because you do end up with so much health, you could use this to give yourself essentially a huge pool of essence. But like I showed you, I'm at the end of the game here, and I have over 100 essence potions, plus another 100 items that I can eat to restore essence. I don't need more essence, so I don't want to waste health in the middle of combat as a form of substitute essence, which is what the blood magic does. It uses your health to power your essence. So it's pointless. And then these are all passive abilities which increase the amount of accumulation of frost, flames, shock, and poison. I don't really feel like they're all that useful. But I chucked a couple of points in here as an experimentation and really didn't feel it was that useful to me. So Later on, if I did this again, I would put these points into some other spells that I'm using. Let's talk about these spells. Which ones do I use and which ones don't I use? I do use Chill Blades. It is a good long-range weapon, but you've got to be careful. It's easy to miss with it. It doesn't track targets. It does decent amount of damage and it'll freeze opponents, but the higher ranks I don't necessarily think are worth it. But if it's getting towards the end of the game and you've got points to spend and you don't know where to put them, put 2 points into it because you're going to use it a lot. Fan of Flames. I found I wasn't using Fan of Flames as much in combat as I probably should. It is a good spell. Cone of Fire right in front of you. Very nice. But I tend to prefer Jolting Touch because Jolting Touch goes a little bit further and it links off to one or more enemies at the same time over a fair distance. So I tended to rely on Jolting Touch more than Fan of Flames, but you will want to use it. So put a couple of points into it. Maybe prioritize Jolting Touch first if you like it better. Corrosive Siphon. Again, it's a necromantic type thing, which I don't really like, but it's a beam that inflicts poison damage and gives you back some health. I felt I didn't need it. Using health potions and food after battles, I never had too much of a problem with health, so I didn't use it. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 spells here all at once. Parasitic Staff, Spirit Lance, and Black Bow. Useless. And I'll say it's very simply why. They sound good at first value. Parasitic Staff, every hit gives you back some essence. Sounds wonderful. Spirit Lance, explosive damage around hits. Black Bow, high poison damage. They all sound good. A, they don't last very long, 30 seconds each. Not great. But B, you can't cast any other spells while they're in your hand. So if you accidentally cast this spell, and unfortunately some of these spells are in the grimoires, and so you may misclick and cast them, immediately switch to your other loadout, which will bring back your grimoire and your wand or whatever you're carrying, because they're pointless. You cannot then cast any spells once they are in your hands until you swap out weapons. You can't even cast like minor missiles. You cannot do a thing until that weapon disappears. So you're stuck for 30 seconds using that weapon unless you change what you're carrying. So I don't like them. I don't use them. I used to use Arcane Veil a lot when I was first playing around with the wizard, but I don't tend to use it as much. By the end of this, I was never using it at all. It does provide some good damage reduction, but it only lasts for 20 seconds. The rank 2 and rank 3 abilities are really good if you want to cast this from a grimoire. And look, it is really cheap, 10 essence, even without a grimoire. Right? So, it is a really good spell, but it just doesn't last long enough. And there's no way to increase the duration. So, I found I was just getting by without it. And towards the end of the game, your armor is good enough that you don't feel like you need it. So, that's that. But yeah, on the first level, my go-to is Jolting Touch, Chill Blades, and then Fan of Flames. On the second level, Blizzard. Now, Blizzard, these 3 spells here, Chill Blades, Blizzard, and Blast of Frost, feel like they're in the wrong order. Right? Because with the Fan of Flames and the Jolting Touch, you have close range spells here, and then long-range AoEs, essentially, and then a cloud spell here. You don't have a fire cloud one, that's all the way down here, right? Or the large AoE. But this one here, the Blast of Frost, is the short range spell. This is your AoE spell, and this is sort of a mid-range one. It feels like this should be the first level spell, and then maybe this one should be the 5th level spell, and that should be the 10th level spell. All right? But still, having said that, Blizzard is a nice spell. You just drop it over a group of enemies, and for a few seconds, they are immobilized, and they're taking frost damage at the same time. Very nice. Put some points into it. You find them in good grimoires, go for it. Fireball. I don't use this as much as I should, but nice AoE, does a good amount of damage. Drop it on the enemies, you're doing good. Crackling Bolt, I love. I use it all the time. It has a good range. It's not super long range, not quite probably as long as Chill Blades, but as long as one of your opponents is fairly close, you can hit them with this, and then it'll bounce around, and I have seen it bounce back and forth all over the area, particularly once you get to that rank 3, so putting 2 points into it and casting it from a grimoire, it bounces between enemies and the environment 8 times. And if you've got an enemy who is standing like near a tree or a pile of rocks or whatever, you can zap it at them and it'll just go ding, 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 ding between them and the trees, and it'll just wipe them out in no time. I have wiped out entire groups of 2 or 3 sort of low-level enemies for the area, but not like first level. I'm talking at the end of the game. There's still a small, like a group of 2 or 3 fairly easy enemies, and cast it amongst them when they're tightly grouped together, and it'll just bounce around between them, and it wipes them all out in one go. And it's just like, oh, that was easy. So good spell, even late game, rely on. And again, it is my first choice at level 1. Well, at level 5. It's the first one I pick. I put points into as soon as I can. Grimoire Snap. Now, I don't cast this from a grimoire much at all. And I don't really know why I put the 2 points. Well, I do know why I put 2 points into it, because rank 2 is quite good, right? Rank 3 is even better. It reduces the essence cost even further. But the reason I don't cast it from grimoire much is because it's not really in the grimoires that I like. I'd have to have a special grimoire just for it. But I don't tend to use it in combat a lot either. It's great for knocking down walls and stuff, but in combat, I just tend to forget about it a little bit. So, yeah, I don't tend to use it as much as I should. But I put 2 points into it because I needed to put points somewhere. At the level 10 spells, I don't use Blast of Frost. I think it's pointless. Look, it does a good amount of damage and everything, but it just doesn't feel like it's all that useful. Oh, sorry, I missed Bristling Frost. Bristling Frost, Ring of Fire. 2 more spells I just don't use. If you've played Skyrim, these are the Cloak of Frost, Cloak of Fire type spells. They create a ring of fire around you, which deals fire to close enemies. They don't last very long. They use a lot of essence. Even with grimoires, it feels like they're not worth it. So I just tend not to use them, and I got by fine without them. If you go to the effort of using them, it probably does help, but I'm concentrating on killing enemies when they're that close to me. I'm not concentrating on, oh, someone's right in my face, I better cast Ring of Fire. No, I'd rather quickly cast Grimoire Snap or Minor Missiles, and because Minor Missiles will do a hell of a lot of damage to someone that's close. I probably didn't mention it earlier, just ADHD, big swerve, squirrel type thing. But Minor Missiles does have a semi-limited range. It doesn't go as far as you think it would. So be aware of that. But yeah, close. When enemies get in close, I much prefer to use something like Grimoire Snap or even Fan of Flames or Jolting Touch or Minor Missiles than trying to pull out one of these two. So I don't use them. Excuse me. Okay, level 10 spells. Don't use Blast of Frost. Don't use this. Returning Storm doesn't last very long, but it is a good spell for a Storm of Lightning. It's quite nice. I drop it on enemies all the time. Works well. And the other good one is Missile Salvo. I've already mentioned Spirit Lance. I'm not going to mention it again. Missile Salvo. Again, doesn't last a huge amount of time, but what it does is a sphere of arcane energy rises up out of the ground and then casts a bunch of minor missiles at nearby enemies. And then, once you've got rank 2, if anyone survived, the sphere will smash into them and dealing stun. And then, at rank 3, you're increasing the rate of fire of the missiles. It is very nice, and it itself can also wipe out an entire small group of enemies. So I love it. Quite frankly, I don't like any of these level 15 spells. Freezing Pillar, I don't see the point. It's just like it's another small blizzard. It just doesn't seem to do much. Every time I've tried to use it, it either seems to be very hard to target it, or it just doesn't do enough damage. And I just never really liked it. And Pull of Aora, for what it does, it just seems like it's way too much essence. Even though, yes, you're using a grimoire, you're reducing the cost. It's not worth it. So I just never use it. Meteor Shower is the go-to 20th level spell, without a doubt. It lasts 10 seconds, which is a lot compared to what some of these higher level spells only last like 6 seconds, 8 seconds type of thing. I mean, sure, Pull of Aora lasts 12 seconds, but only really affects a small group of enemies. Anyway, Meteor Shower works really good. Does a lot of damage. Second rank leaves the burning flames on the ground. Third rank reduces the cost even further. I love it. Quite frankly, I never saw the point of Arcane Seal. I've tried it once or twice and just never really liked it. It's a seal on the ground that you have to stand in, and while you stand in, you get essence back. Big deal. Like I've said, I never feel like I run ridiculously low on essence. I can always just chug an essence potion. Over half the battles in the game, I never need to even chug an essence potion. And quite frankly, it was rare for me to chug more than 2. Very, very rare. Like, it was a rare case for me to have to chug that second essence potion. All right, so that's all of those spells. The other thing you're going to want to do is you will, of course, need to unlock Grimoire Mastery every chance you get, because that gives you access to the level 5, the level 10, the level 15, and the level 20 spells. All right. Now, the only other thing I'm going to say about the grimoires that I haven't mentioned before, well, there's a couple more things actually about grimoires. One, I mentioned that you've got this minus 72% ability cost and minus 45% cooldown. That's all great. Don't expect that at the start, though. It's only like minus 30% ability cost for a common grimoire, and I think it's like 15% cooldown, or minus 5 or 10% cooldown, or something like that. But every little bit helps, and you do not feel at the start of the game like you are hurting for essence, even with that reduced thing. You just always cast from your grimoire, and you will be fine. Now, the other thing you'll notice here is I don't have a secondary equipment set. And I'm going to show you why. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to here, and I'm going to put distant death in there. Now, there's no one here to battle, but let's cast a few spells, and let me just show you something. So I can sit here and I can go, I rattled off those 3 spells nice and quick. And I'll just wait for them to come back. And I'm going to cast them again. And then we're going to switch to our second. We're going to switch weapons like this. And we're going to keep casting. And I'm going to show you how slow it is. And then I'm going to show you the fast way to do it. All right? So, 1 spell, 2 spells, 3 spells, switch, So it takes a little bit to swap equipment, right? But there's a better way to do it. So let's just take that out of our hand. Let's go back to here and let's put in the Grimoire of Distant Death. Let's just wait for the cooldowns to finish, and let's get our essence back just so I can show you. All right. Now, I'll zap out my 3 big spells from here. 1, 2, 3. Immediately go into my inventory and go to there. And see how quick I can cast my next spell. It takes no time at all. If you just change the grimoire in your inventory in the current equipped hand that you've got, you can do it in a split second and just spam out spells as fast as you need to. And all of that, and look how little of my essence that used for all of those spells that I cast. Right? That is how you play a wizard here. You only need one hand and you just go like that, and that spell book is immediately available. As soon as you come out, it's the new spell book. It takes 0 time, and it allows you to just absolutely dominate, provided you've got the essence, and it is very quick to get your essence back using a potion. And you can just spam spells one after the other. I mean, it's the only way to play a wizard. Because this thing, see how, like, I'm aiming for Yahtzlee's head. That missed. That missed. That missed. That missed. That one probably would have hit her and done some damage. But, you know, you can't harm your companions. 1 out of 5 at that distance. Even here, at this distance. It's doubtful if any of those would actually be classed as a hit. Like if I'm trying to destroy... is there any destructibles here? I think... Oh, no, here we go. No, I've destroyed them all already. Someone did. Thought that highlighted something there for a second that I could destroy. Yeah, no, we've already destroyed everything here. But, you know, you'll often stand this close. It's hitting it every time now, but normally if I was trying to do that, it would miss. So, yeah. The wand is just not accurate enough. Sure, it casts very fast, but look how wildly inaccurate those are. Unless you're right up on your opponent, unless they are right in your face, you cannot guarantee that you're going to hit with the wand. So I never felt wand was useful. I would much rather just sit here and spam out all of my area of effect spells. You know, that's pretty well all of the major area of effect spells. I would much rather just do that than try and zap away with the wand. The only time I've used the wand in combat is if an enemy is down to the last slither of health and I didn't want to waste a couple of points of essence to kill them. And I still, 9 times out of 10, I'll just go and use like Jolting Touch or something and just finish them off. It's overkill. It's massive overkill. But it's like, I might as well, you know? So that's it. That is my wizard build in Avowed. I got all the way through the game. It was on normal difficulty. It was not hard at all. There was only 1 or 2 places in the game where I felt like, oh, maybe I have to be a little bit careful in this fight. And, you know, I did die a couple of times and have to restart a fight. But once I worked out what was going on with that opponent, it wasn't hard. I never felt like I didn't have enough health. I never felt like I didn't have enough essence. I could just always chug a potion. But 90% of my battles I got through without having to chug any potions. And that other 10%, it was probably 8% of those. You know, the next 8%, I had to use 1 potion, and then the rest I had to use 2. It was easy mode. The wizard is by far the second easiest build you can do once you understand it. It can be daunting when you don't understand it, but once you understand that casting spells from the grimoire is the way to do it, it's easy mode. And you'll never run out of... You don't ever have a problem with feeling like you've got no essence. You never have a problem. And you're just mowing through opponents because your spells are doing all the work for you. It's great. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have fun nuking all of your enemies in Avowed, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye now.